Welcome to the Call to Farms podcast, a place where we explore the journey of food and farming. From our farm to your table, I'm your host, Tim Ing, along with my wife, Sophie.
Hey everyone.
And we are on a mission to inspire, educate, and connect you with stories from other local farmers and other real food enthusiasts of all kinds in pursuit of true nourishment. Today, we have two very special guests joining us, Kody and Ron Hanner, are homesteaders in North Idaho who have grown their homestead to feed their family and financially supplement themselves. They decided to expand their farming efforts after Ron received a life-changing medical diagnosis. Now, they own the Homestead Education to help bring information to families and aspiring homesteaders. Kody and Ron, welcome.
Hi,
Howdy.
thanks for having us.
It's great to have you both. And I like to kick it off by asking, what prompted you both to answer the call to farms?
I mean, we have our story about his diagnosis, but honestly, I grew up in agriculture and that was I knew that there was never anything else that I really wanted to do.
Yeah, for me, I grew up in a small town that was primarily ag. I was kind of stuck in the small town, so I didn't get to do all the farming. But of course, my friends and everybody did. And every opportunity I got, I took off to Wyoming to farm with my aunts and uncles. And it's always been in my heart. So when I got the opportunity to do it myself, here we are.
I was the wild child on a ranch that got a quad and a walkie-talkie and told, "We'll see you tonight."
So you grew up on the farm. Did you raise the children on the farm too in your early marriage?
In our early marriage, we had 5 acres in Oregon that we wanted to farm, but turns out you cannot farm like frozen desert. So we were in the high desert there, but like when I was younger, or when like my twins were younger, we're a yours, mine, and ours. So we both brought kids into our marriage. But when the twins were younger, I was going to Chico State as an ag major. So they actually would go work on the farm with me.
That's awesome.
I had them like signed up as volunteers. They were like 3.
That's cute. Ron, do you mind sharing a little bit about your story?
Sure. Well, we'll start off kind of in Oregon there. We had met down in California, moved up into Oregon because California, no.
They can understand.
We can understand.
We know a little bit.
Right.
At least we grew up in rural California.
Yeah. Or as we call it, normal California. Not so much anymore. But we pushed up into Oregon, which of course isn't any better at this point. But got up in there, discovered that growing seasons weren't any better. I was excited for hunting season to start one day. And end of August, as a matter of fact. And I didn't cover our garden one night because hunting season was the next morning. I was excited, getting ready to go out, 4:00 in the morning, didn't cover the garden. She went out to check it the next day because I was already gone hunting and it had all frozen.
I was not a happy wife.
Yeah. So we started the discussion that we were going to start looking for better area that we could farm. Shortly after that, I wound up going to the VA to have a CAT scan done and got probably some of the worst news of my life, and that I had an enlarged liver. At that point, they called me in for all these crazy liver appointments, and things just got worse and worse. And next thing you know, they're telling me I've got end stage 4 liver cirrhosis. And at that point, what was I, 20, 30, how old was I?
Like 35?
35, something like that.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
and I've never been a heavy drinker. I honestly blame it on my military time, the nonsense that we had to breathe and deal with in Iraq. I don't know what it was that we were breathing, but you could definitely smell it the second you step off the plane. You know it's there. But from that diagnosis,
Well, and I mean, basically at the VA hospital, we get the diagnosis and they go, we really don't know how long you have to live at this point. Come back in a year, we'll check you for cancer. And we did hear if you maybe eat healthier, it might help.
they
Like,
left us
yay,
with no answers.
yay VA,
At least they offered that.
That's the VA.
Yeah, they left us with no answers, a whole lot of questions. What do we do? I mean, is this the end? I've got new baby, the kids that are currently here, relatively new wife at the time.
He gave me an out. I was like, no, I don't accept any of this. I don't accept this answer, and I don't accept the out. Like, we're doing this.
I was ready to just kind of give up. It was like,
Yeah.
I'm defeated.
Yeah.
She wasn't. She started researching and pushing, and I went into a very dark place at that time. I was a miserable person. She hung in there, stuck by me, and just kept pushing and coming up with new plans and new ideas and new recipes that I was like, that's nasty. What are you trying to make me eat? Whoa, hey, you know what? That didn't taste too bad. What was that?
So how long were you in this dark place, and what did you try? What are some of the things that you guys tried doing?
Number one, at the time I was a smoker. I quit smoking totally. Occasionally we would have a drink here or there with friends. That all totally stopped. And then just from her research, it turned out the best thing we could do is eat clean and get away from the grocery store as much as possible. You know, they say eat the outside of the grocery store. No, stay out of the grocery store totally. And so that was kind of the beginning of our journey. It was like, okay, we need to be in a place where we can grow our own food, our own meats, our own vegetables, as much as possible. Everything we can grow, we need to do ourselves. And along our journey, it pushed us up here to North Idaho. Who would have thought North Idaho? Everybody thinks snow, you know, we're on the Canadian border. And
We have a beautiful growing area. Like, I can grow better here than I could in California.
Really?
and
Probably because I don't have to water it here. In California, you have to water.
Yes. So what are you
Yeah. Do
growing?
you get enough
Cody?
rainfall?
I do have
you
to
get
water,
enough
but I don't
rainfall?
have to. Yeah, I mean, the local alfalfa fields don't even irrigate. I do have to water my garden, but I don't have to water it. Like, if I forget, it's not the end of it. So,
So what are you growing, Cody, in northern Idaho?
well, I mean, in our gardens, we pretty much grow everything that, I mean, anyone else would in a normal, like, summer garden. I start it early so that I have my greens and peas and stuff. And then through the summer, we do, all of our summer vegetables, tomatoes, peppers, squashes, corn. And then sometimes in the fall, we get garlic in time, but sometimes we don't. A lot of times we're at HOA when it's time to put garlic in, and we come home to frozen ground and we're like, well, that was a nice thought, And then as far as our meat, we provide all of our own meat. That's well, we raise about 350 hogs a year. We kind of have a bit of a commercial homestead up here. So we sell piglets, whole hogs, half hogs, retail cuts, kind of a little bit of everything with that. But then we also have our milk cows. We raise a steer every year, meat birds, eggs, and then we hunt as well.
Do you grow enough for the homestead for you and your family, or provide extra for the community?
So we grow for ourselves, we probably grow about 95% of our own meat. There's occasionally like we're out of hamburger right now, and it's our son's birthday today, and he wants barbecued hamburgers. So we're going to just go buy some hamburger. I mean, it is what it is. We try to buy from our friends and neighbors as much as we can. So I'll try to stop by the farm store. If it's not open, I'll just stop by the grocery store. But then, like I said, with the pork, we are selling enough that it actually not supports our homestead, but it definitely like covers all of our farm expenses and, helps with just our family cash flow as well.
So, Ron, is it just through this eating cleanly from the food that you're growing? Did that help restore your body?
it did.
That and medications too.
We got away from pretty much all medications. A couple of key things I've done just throughout my time. I messed up my back in Iraq. Got blown up a couple of times over there. Of course, the VA wants to push all the medications on you for pain management. I fought that. I wound up going with the spinal cord stimulator to deal with pain. So I was able to stay away from a lot of the meds that way. I just recently had a weight loss surgery done last year.
January, yeah.
Was able to drop a lot of weight with that, and with that, I'm totally off all medications. So I have nothing that's going through my liver other than good, clean food.
That's
And
wonderful news.
while they were in there, they did a liver biopsy and took a look at my liver. Actually got to put eyes on it while they were there, not just through machines. But I said I've got a little scarring around the outside, a little bit of cirrhosis just on the outside, but internal, the biopsies came back, looked great. They were like, we don't know what you've done, what you guys have done to fix this, but keep doing it. Your liver looks amazing. It was okay. Well, here's a whole new look on life. Let's run with this.
Amen. That's so good. And how long was that whole recovery process? And you're good to go now?
It's been 7 years.
Hmm.
And, we definitely started seeing a health change in him probably about 3 years. Yeah, about 3 years ago. He started feeling better, and we switched to some supplements to really help with like gut health and boost his immune system and that type of thing. Cause him getting sick, we didn't want him, on antibiotics or anything else that we didn't have to use for, sleep and muscle pain and like indigestion and headaches. We switched almost exclusively to essential oils unless it got really bad. So like that was our first route. And then if he needed something else, we would go there. So because definitely like with his spinal cord issues and stuff, like he could work all day on the farm and be fine with like, an essential oil rub. And then sometimes there was days where he's like, nope, I can hardly walk. Like, and he would have to go to pharmaceuticals for that. But we definitely cut it out as much as we could.
Yeah.
And
I-
even like our eating, a lot of it, like he said, he'd look at things and be like, what is that? That's gross. I'm not eating that. So what I really focused on was trying to make our diet look as close to, I don't even know what a normal diet is anymore, but like a normal millennial diet, I guess would be the best way of explaining that. Because I mean, we grew up on boxed foods,
Mhm.
And so not that I wanted to only mimic boxed foods, but to kind of just not change our diet so drastically that like him and our kids weren't like, I am not eating this, and we were just wasting money and stuff. So I've done a lot of putting together my own spice blends and things like that to be able to quickly make meals where the whole family can jump in and cook.
Yeah, I love your story because it's so inspiring where the healing process, it's just so real. It doesn't happen overnight just by switching to eat cleanly. It's a process, but I mean the results are real. Your bill of health is clean, and you're sharing real stories that I used to associate, you know, healthy foods as foods that don't taste good. And
Right.
it's been a journey for us too. That's why Sophie wrote her cookbook where it can
Mhm.
be nourishing and delicious for you. So, I mean, thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we never thought that a big old steak with butter on it would be healthier
Mm,
for us than,
yeah.
some fat-free packaged food or something. So,
I'm interested, Cody, and how you made this progression. So you have this homestead, but you're known for the homestead education. And our family purchased some of your books,
Mhm.
and it's just amazing curriculum that you have, something that we've never seen before, and totally digestible for both children and adults too.
Love
Yeah.
that. That's definitely a goal because that was, even though I grew up in agriculture, when we switched our mindset to homesteading, I had to kind of relearn everything. Like I knew the questions to ask, but I didn't know, like I didn't even know how to find those answers because they weren't really out there when we started homesteading. It was very minimal. And so, it was just sometimes it was the most basic things like, okay, I have cows. When I have cows, I've always wormed my cows, but I've always had beef cows. Am I allowed to worm a dairy cow? Like I didn't know. And I still sometimes have to seek out those answers because when I am trying to be a little bit more holistic, but then I also acknowledge, the benefits of if we bring a new dairy cow onto the property, I do the whole gauntlet of she gets wormed and everything and she's, quarantined and then she comes into the rest of the herd and then we avoid if she's going to be a milk cow, we avoid worming and stuff like that unless we absolutely need to. And then we try to do it during her dry time. So, it's like we're just learning those types of things. But we started homeschooling our kids around the same time that he got sick. And it was really overwhelming because, we at the time we had 5 kids, and some of them did not wanna be homeschooled. Some of them wanted to learn literally from the time they crawled out of bed until midnight. So, I was trying to provide this education at home because I thought that I had to do it that way. And I mean, well, we have to sit down from, 9 to 6 or, 9 to 3 and get our 6 hours of school in, and it, has to look a certain way because I was a new homeschooler, and again, we didn't have all that information that we have now, or, kind of that mindset that we've all created for ourselves. But so I was trying to teach them agriculture stuff. I'm like, "I can do this. We are starting a farm to feed dad, and we have to learn." Yeah, only to feed dad, the rest of us. But I mean, the kids were having, like, suddenly they go to public school and all of a sudden they're homeschooled and all we do is farm. And I mean, we have chickens in the kitchen, like, brooding, and I'm, got all these appliances and books around me, and I'm like, we have to learn how to do this, and I don't have time to teach you and teach myself and figure out how to farm. And so I started building curriculum for them to learn the agriculture, what we were doing, so that I could, like I said, I thought I had to provide them this really structured curriculum. And I started my website then. At the time, I called it the Homemade Revelation because it was this revelation that I was not cooking from scratch, even though I thought I was. And, posting my blogs and talking to people about how, you can start one thing at a time and master it and then move on to the next. And really, it was me telling myself to, like, simmer down. And we moved to Idaho, and I was doing real estate, and I was driving to work one day listening to a podcast, and it was Jill Winger's podcast, and she was talking about homestead businesses and a gal who started a business doing one thing and then ended up, I mean, just really blowing up over something else. And I don't know what it was, but it clicked right there in my brain. You need to write a homeschool curriculum. Like, you're doing all the work, somebody else wants this too.
Mhm.
And so I came home and I told him, and he's not always a fan of my crazy ideas. He was definitely like, he's like, That's a great idea. Here's your computer, get to work." And so I started writing, and I, came out with the little learners, and just kind of, it was more of a tester, like, is this something people even want? And what I
Yeah.
found is everybody asked for, like, the junior high and high school. They were like, that is the underserved market.
Mhm.
And so I wrote the junior high and high school one and have kind of just been going from there. It's been a huge hit.
Yeah, we have the curriculum, Kody, when I got the whole set when we met last
Yeah.
year in March. And I was sold. I mean, I had heard about your curriculum from another homeschooling mom when we first moved here, and we were exploring. We had come from the classical conversations background for several years with our
Mhm.
first, and thought it was pretty good, pretty structured.
Yeah,
But, since we've now doubled down in homesteading, you're right. There's not a curriculum out there for the middle schooler, high school age. I mean, I have a regenerative agriculture coloring book that we just got gifted for elementary school kids, which I think is
yeah,
great. But it's still missing that generation of, or that age bracket of children
mhm,
who should be doing the work right now alongside us with parents of our generation
exactly.
who are kind of learning it too.
Mhm. And, my kids, we live in a rural community, like, that's what they wanna learn about, that's what their friends are talking about. But on the flip side, what I've seen a lot at homeschool conferences is, especially right now, that junior high and high school age were the ones that were severely affected during the shutdowns.
Yeah.
They felt completely out of control. And to be able to give them something that gives them a little bit of power and self-sufficiency over their own lives, that they wouldn't have to maybe go through some of the same things their parents went through if we ever had a shutdown like that again. I've seen a lot of kids really drawn to it that way.
Have you heard from any of those students? I'm sure your own kids being one, but
Yeah. No, my own kids are all like, "Mom, this crossword is really long. Do we have to do the whole thing?" Yeah, yeah, you do. But, I get a lot of feedback from these kids that they're excited to start their own farms. I've had parents, come back to me and be like, "My kids decided they wanna start their own business after learning how to budget through your book." And their business wasn't even an ag business, but they just it got those wheels turning. I get a lot of, "My kids haven't touched an electronic since I brought your book into the house." And I'm like, that's the goal right there. So,
I love it.
but
You're making
yeah,
such a huge impact for kids in this new, I would say, post 2020 pandemic world where
yeah.
we also came to the same conclusion of, we have to be producers, not just
Mhm.
consumers. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about your curriculum and your impact in the world with these
Oh,
children now.
What I love about your curriculum is that I remember when Sophie brought I think it was the coloring book or it was for the kids. She brought
uh-huh.
it over to me at that women's homesteading conference, and she said, "Hey, honey, you need to check this out. I mean, even you'll really like this." And I looked at it, and I'm like, "Yeah," and I really like the fact that you're catering to the next generation, but it's also really for the parents who are diving into homesteading and we are from the city and we didn't know
Yeah.
anything about farming and homesteading. And all we know about farming is conventional farming when we're
Yep.
moving over, and that's the wrong way to do things. And the way that you present it is so like digestible that, oh yeah, I'm teaching my kids how to do this, but I'm really learning it as well. And the curriculum is just second to none in terms of it provides that great extracurricular. My question is, do you supplement like what other how else do you homeschool your children to get the English and math and all that stuff? How do you do homeschooling? I'm sure our viewers want to know.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, we use Homestead Science as our science, but I mean, even last year, my daughter, she wants to be a vet, and so she's really heavy into, taking kind of some of the advanced sciences, but this, just falls right into that for her. But like, so we've taken other sciences in the last few years since I even wrote this. But for English, we use Good and the Beautiful. We really like that one for kind of all of our ages and the way it's set up. I don't feel like my kids get really bogged down by the literature based curriculums, and this works really well for them to more work on their writing and their grammar and those types of things. So it's been really great. Even like my little guy, he was really resistant to learn to read, and we're trying to like kind of unschool him, like just kind of, he's my little experiment. And, he was playing out in the garden the other day and he comes running in and he's like, "Mom, you said I was going to learn how to read and I can't read my bug identification guide." He's like, "So we need to get my curriculum out right now and you need to teach me to read." I'm like, "Well, it's not going to happen before dinner time, but yeah, go get it." So that was I was like, "Okay, yay, unschool for the win." He decided it was time because he couldn't read his bug identification guide.
And he's doing great now.
Oh, yeah, he is loving it. He is blasting through his curriculum so fast because he's determined to learn how to read now.
That's amazing. We've used the good and the beautiful too, and I love that you're unschooling your child because that's the beauty of homeschooling. You just
Mhm.
cater to your child's needs. That's great.
Yeah, and then for math, we're using Good and the Beautiful for my little guy, but for my teenagers, we met a gentleman at a homeschool conference who has a algebra math curriculum, and it starts through pre-algebra and goes through, I think, calculus now. And it's called Dennis and Algebra, and we actually really love that. It's a video course with a workbook. So they watch his video and then they do the workbook, and the workbook even teaches you how to take notes and stuff. So we really love his curriculum. And then
I've seen these two excel with this
yeah.
curriculum where they've struggled with the same concepts of algebra through other curriculums, and this one they've just grabbed it and excelled. It's been great.
Yeah. So we really enjoy that one. And then we kind of bounce around on whatever else we're learning at the time. So, like, we'll add other little things in, like, they do journal, they work on their 4-H record books, we are doing Good and the Beautiful, government right now, but then we're gonna be finishing that in a few weeks, and we're switching to an ancient history that a local friend of mine wrote, so
That's great. There's a huge community up in northern Idaho. We were considering Idaho when we were looking into places to move, and I know you've got some really good people out there. How can you tell me how the community is out there? We were looking at, I think it was Sandpoint, Idaho at
Mhm.
one point, and then what is it, Coeur d'Alene?
Yeah,
Are you close to any of those
we
areas?
are. Yeah, you guys would have been killer real estate agents here.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So we are about 45 minutes north of Sandpoint. There's one town in between us, but we are right on the Canadian border. We're 1,000 feet from Border Patrol. So yeah, we're like, how far away can we get from people?
Our dogs are currently, well, not currently, frequently international fugitives.
Yeah. Yeah, they like to wander, but it's a really neat community where we're at it's actually Boundary County because it's like the square on top of Idaho that it's up against Montana, Washington, and Canada. And I think there's 15,000 people in our whole county.
Something like that. Yeah.
And it's like, how many square miles is it? It's huge. It's a huge county with hardly anyone here. And most, like probably over half the people farm. We have a really great local food network. There's several farm stores. I always say like you can't have a local food network without local food. And everybody really jumps in on that here, whether it's selling their products or even just bartering, trading. He barters mechanic work for hay every year. So we get all of our hay needs done because he keeps the neighbors' tractors running. I've actually traded pork for podcast editing. It just kind of, and then there's also, we donate a pig or two every year to the food bank or to local veteran families that need extra meat. So with that, the food bank, any milk that isn't going to get picked up by the following week, milk and cheese and eggs and those types of things that won't last, they bring to our pigs.
Oh,
And
that's
so we have
great.
we have a walk-in cooler in our shop. They just, if we're not here, they come in and just put it in. And I don't feed it to my feeders because it's like commercial products, but I will feed it to my sows.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait,
Because they're not going to get eaten.
Yeah.
so do you have a farm store? You mentioned the shop.
We are going to be opening a farm store this spring. So we finally, we got all of his mom's stuff out of our meat room. Finally, when we moved here, we had a full meat room that the owner pulled out some of the stuff, left some of the stuff for us. It's got a water heater and a sink and that type of thing. And so we're going to do the back half of it where we can still butcher our own meat there. And the front half will be a farm store.
So Ron, do you support more on the farm side, or do you have a hand in the homestead education?
She does all the creation at this point. I've kind of taken over a lot of the customer service and
Ooh.
shipping.
Nice.
She just was getting too overwhelmed. I'm like, put me to work already, would you? let me take on what I can. I can't do the creation. That's not my forte, but I can put the stuff in the boxes. I can ship. I can answer questions. So I kind of took that over, and
yeah.
Well, times are a little bit slower right now through winter.
Yeah.
And curriculum season is a little bit slower. Get into that, get used to it all. And as things are building up, it's like, okay, I know it now. So I can handle it when everything explodes and takes off. And she's out traveling the country, and I'm stuck here at the house on the farm, and I'll go do my farm chores and come back and pack and ship. And
you sound like a lot like us and how we operate. Do you think some of your military skills and experiences lend well to homesteading and running the business?
Not so much. Not mine. Mine were about the only thing that I can say my military helps me with is the reactive part. I react great to anything.
Okay. You're flexible, adaptable.
On the flip side, he is not proactive at all. And so, I'm like, hey, we should probably like go redo that fence. Like, I'll go buy all the stuff. Let me know what day you want to get out there and do it, and we'll redo the fence. And he's like, it's fine. If the cows get out, we'll fix it. And I'm like, no, we fix the fence first. And that was actually several years of us battling back and forth on that concept. I'm kind of joking about it now, but he just didn't see things that way.
Yeah, I think that's common though, even with Tim and I, and where we've had we're sometimes still battling that too, because
Mhm.
there's a lot of things to do on the homestead, and to anticipate and to get ahead of it, and the cost and resources of everything with time and money too. Sometimes that's our biggest argument, is trying not to say I told you so.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, with me, with my military time, it was beaten to us so severe, being lower enlisted, that you don't do anything until there's a major threat. You don't fire until fired upon, period.
Mhm.
You see that threat, you know it's coming at you. You don't do nothing about it until they've done something to harm you already. So it's kind of really stuck with me, and
Well,
it's a bad thing.
well, you're able to adapt pretty well, because I'm sure the way that Kody described it is basically ripping the Band-Aid off for your family and moving from the city and into embracing homestead living. But it just, when she mentioned that you barter already, like your mechanic skills, I was wondering if that's something that you had done in the military, which is why I asked if that was a skill set that you can now use, or is that something
Yeah,
you grew up with?
it definitely was. I got to work with a lot of the local nationals over there. Well, I say a lot. Some of them that we would bring on base, and they would do work for us, and then we'd provide different things for them. And
Yeah.
I got to do some of that, and that helps here. And just my grittiness, I guess. If
Mhm.
something has to happen, sleep doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If we have to go 48 hours, then we do it.
Yeah,
We
be a
stay
workhorse.
awake, and yeah, we
Okay.
we we go forever.
Well, go ahead.
I was
I
gonna say where I'm the opposite. Like I have to have my sleep, but during my waking hours, I can be managing 20 things at once and managing them well. Like where he's like, I don't even know what you're doing anymore. Like just, shout out like what I have to do every few minutes. But then yeah, my brain shuts down. Like I'm done.
Yeah, I think Tim and I work in this very similar manner, where I will do that. I will shout out like, "This is what I'm working on. I need this." And we now had to implement marriage meetings on Sundays.
I love it.
Well, I've had to ask her, like, how can I communicate with you? Because she has a lot of great ideas. I'm like, I might have to just text you or put it on our Asana board that we need to have a meeting. So
I put him on my Asana board.
there you go. Well, I'm excited because I hear you just told me that you're about to launch your farm store. What else do you have in store?
Well, we're hoping to do a soft opening next month. We're picking up some butchered lambs this week, and we have a freezer full of pork. So we'll have pork.
Some way too expensive lambs.
I,
We supported some underweight 4-H lambs from
yeah,
last year and then grew them out, so we paid top dollar for them.
we
Okay,
did, but we helped out some local kids, and they sent us a very nice thank you
I
letter.
saw that.
there you go.
Um, and yeah, so we have these lambs coming, and we're going to go ahead and sell them. And it was more, we wanted to support them and have some diversity in the store while we were kind of getting going. We'll have raw milk, eggs. We have quail and chicken, so we'll have quail and chicken eggs. My daughter is dead set on selling bread, so I don't see it being a problem. She bakes all the time. Like I can't keep her out of the kitchen. So she'll be selling bread. I have a friend who's just starting an herb business, so we're going to do live herbs there in the store. I will do my spring plant sale in late May, early June. I do that every year, but that's going to be our big grand opening, and we're hoping to do like hot dogs or something like that because we are about 45 minutes from town. So to kind of get people, make it like a destination. We're hoping to do some classes. Of course, we'll do like the regular, teach how to butcher chicken type classes. But we also have about a mile long trail that goes through the north part of our property. And so we're going to take the survival class that I just wrote and implement that into our trail where families can come, and we'll probably like go with them. And at each station, they'll learn a new skill and then get to practice it at the station.
You'll have
Wow.
to let us know when that takes place. We might fly over to Idaho just for that.
Right? Well,
So,
we have that awesome Modern Homesteader conference that's
Yeah.
happening here every June now, so maybe next summer or something, we can have that up and running and get everybody up here.
Yeah, plan it around that time and we'll come out.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Actually, I am planning on coming out to the Modern Homesteaders Conference this
Oh,
June.
cool.
Yeah, as a vendor, or a co-vendor
Oh,
for the
nice.
event. So yeah, I'll have to. How far are you away from that location?
Yeah, 100 miles.
Okay,
It's
not
Which,
just
bad.
it's easy.
I mean, for us, our closest like big grocery store is Sandpoint. So, that's a 45-minute drive. It's only another like half hour on down to Coeur d'Alene. So we're like 100 miles, whatever.
That's easy.
That's true.
well, so with Homestead Education, oh, actually, let me go back. With the farm store, are your children going to be running that?
Yeah,
Okay,
a lot
wonderful.
of the times we're gonna have set hours, but then we're also gonna put like a driveway doorbell ringer
Mhm.
so that we don't have to just sit out there all day.
That's wonderful that you're involving your kids in running their own business. That's what we do as well. And with the Homestead Education, are you coming up with some new curriculum as well, or what would anything to share on that?
Oh, yeah. So I was gonna have Homestead History available in the fall, but my production schedule got pushed back a little bit, but I'm actively working on that right now, which will hopefully be a full year kind of junior high, high school level food and ag sociology of the US. But I want it to be something that could be like a reader, like you said, like the adults can pick up and enjoy as well, but then would come with a workbook to be a history curriculum as well.
I love that idea as a history buff. I can't wait till you release that material.
I am so excited. Like I am really, really, I guess, like nerding out on it. And I'm wanting to I'm like I said, I'm about halfway through, but like I'm piecing everything together. And I want it to show up a little bit different than a normal history. Like it'll go follow through the timeline of US, but then each chapter will be about something else with food and ag. So, like, there'll be like a whole soil one, but the soil one will probably land heavily with like the Dust Bowl and Great Depression time. And then there'll be one on food and the military, and that's probably going to sit more heavily on like the World War II era.
That's amazing. I mean, Sophie and I can't rave about your Homestead Education curriculum enough to all of our friends and family. So
I
it's
love
such
that.
a
Thank
high
you.
quality. No problem. Thank you for making this or for producing this content and making it available to other homeschoolers. It's something like you just mentioned, there was such a void and you were able to fill that gap. And you are a force to be reckoned with. And I know you have the support of your husband, Ron, there. And I know he's kind of a silent partner there, but I know he's probably doing a lot of the heavy lifting.
There's nothing silent about this man.
Well, where can our viewers learn more about you?
Of course, they can go to my website, thehomesteadeducation.com. And then I'm on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. And then I have my own podcast, The Homestead Education, which I've had Sophie on.
Yes, so exciting. And I think you just celebrated, what, 100 episodes?
100 episodes. Yeah, I know.
Congratulations.
I can't believe I sat in my office and talked to myself that many times.
Thank you so much for being on our show, Kody and Ron. It's an honor to have you both here. Congratulations again, and we're so excited to be a huge support for your curriculum and all of the future products you'll be coming out with.
Well, thank you so much. And it was an honor to be invited on your guys' podcast as well.